Yeah. Hey everybody. My name is Samir. I am a Bryn Mawr GSS WSR grad with my MSW this year, and I got my LSW in the summer. I'm going to finally start looking for a job in earnest, and I wanted to kind of demystify the supervisory and clinical hours needed for the C. I guess like once you're in the field and you're starting work, these details become second nature, especially as you're doing your timesheets and whatnot, you're tracking. But up front, there are a bunch of different requirements by different variables. So I intend to share this with other noobs who recently graduated. So I will ask a few questions, and any and all corrections are appreciated. Yeah. All right, so diving right in. First cut is by overall time period. So after graduating the MSW, you got your timeline here. And so it shows 7 years out. So all those 3,000 hours, the point at which that number is achieved has to be within years 2 to 6. So you can start amassing hours here, but the point at which you reach 3,000 has to be between year 2 and year 6. I don't know what that means for if you don't do it by year 6, if you just can't be a C or you need to like reset the whole process somehow. So I guess that would be one question. Question one. Sure. Okay, so in terms of what counts, this is regardless of setting, but so within any given 12-month period, you have to have a minimum of 500 and a maximum of 1,500 hours that can count towards this total 3,000. So if you get 300 in a given 12-month period, that doesn't count. So looking at a few scenarios here, again, you can start accumulating the hours right out the gate, as this person does, really hit the ground running, does 1,500 hours first year, 1,500 hours second year, they all count. Then right at year 2, they get their C. Good job. Scenario B, oh no. They did 300 hours the first year, so that doesn't count because you need a minimum of 500 for that 12-month period. The second year, they do 1,500, then they do their other 1,500, so they're good to go. Scenario C, again, the 300 doesn't count, 1,500, 2,500. Oh no, they did 499. That is bleak. So that wouldn't count. So now they have their 500 to make up there. Which there's, I don't know, I haven't really thought about this, but you could theoretically, I guess, have done, like, cut this up differently such that you might have had a 500 here in 6 months, and then taking the other 500 and made it added to the 499 for the portion that was like up to 6 months in here, so that the 499 wouldn't all not count? Or do they automatically look for any 12-month period where the 500 along this whole thing, any consecutive 12-month period where the 500 isn't reached, and is that just X'd out? I hope that made sense. That's question 2. We can talk about that in more detail. But let's move on. So question or scenario D. All right, so this person's done after this 1,000, right? Nope. Boom. You forgot. 1,500 max. So I would assume that 1,500 of that counts, and it's not like the whole 2,000 is nixed. So 1,500, 2,500, and then 500. So they're good to go. So again, if you've got like 300, 300, 300, 300, 300, then none of that would count, and you would have elapsed at some point. So that's by overall time period. Um, by setting, so this is by individual setting. So as I understand it, you have to have worked at a single setting for 3 months continuously for any of those hours to count, regardless of how many hours per week. So you work somewhere for 2 months and left, then none of those count. So if it's a 3 month minimum period, or really between 3 and 6 months, then you have to have done 30 to 50 hours per week at that setting. Minimum 30, maximum that counts of 50. So here's a scenario here. So all these greens are good. These are all individual weeks. There's a couple weeks where you didn't have 30. You had 20. So I don't know if it's the case that they average the entire thing. So if the average of all this was like 32, they would all count, or any of these individual weeks, if they're under 30, those individual weeks just don't count and the rest of the hours count. Or I can't imagine this is the case, but if the whole thing is just not is no longer qualifying because one of the weeks was under 30, that would suck. But so that's a 3 month piece. Then if you're somewhere for 6 months, at least 6 months, then it is 15-hour minimum. And so same thing applies. Again, is it the case that just these weeks' hours wouldn't count? Would they be taking the overall average? Those questions same apply or still apply. So that would be another clarification, question number 3, I guess. You can just, if you're commenting on any of these, just use the timestamp, make it easier. Yeah. All right. By type of work, so at least half of the overall hours must be face-to-face in more purely clinical areas, assessment, psychotherapy, other intervention. I don't know exactly what this is, maybe like manualized stuff, I don't know. Consultation, family therapy, group practice. And I guess go back, can't go back, I don't know what's going on. I guess the other 1,500, I assume that it can't be like paperwork and admin and stuff. It has to be other direct care areas, but it could be like case management. That's clarification question number 4. Like if you do a 1-hour therapy session and you do 20 minutes doing paperwork, I imagine you can't count that 20, but could be wrong. So the supervision hours. So 3,000 hours clinical requires a total of 150 supervision hours. That is the same ratio of basically per every 40 clinical hours, you need 2 hours of supervision. And this can take a couple different forms. It can be 2 hours of individual one-on-one supervision with one other person. It could be 1 hour individual and 1 hour group. This has to be happening concurrently, like the same week or whatever. But you cannot do 2 hours of group. They only allow 1 hour of group supervision per week. So the other hour would have to be individual. Half of all the hours must be with an actual LCSW. The other half can be with other approved folks, the full list of the requirements being on the link that I'm going to share with you at the end of this, which is the kind of the synopsis of all these rules as set out by or summarized by the Pennsylvania Society of Clinical Social Workers. Is that right? And then they also link to the actual Pennsylvania code, which has everything, in raw detail. Must be tons of fun to go through that. And then so another, I guess, question number 5, within the supervision documentation, as I understand it, there's no vetting of what the content of supervision is beyond just I did 150, I did it the right way, timing-wise, and at least half of it was within LCSW, meaning the supervision doesn't have to look a certain kind of way with an LCSW or somebody else, or you don't have to like document having covered certain topics. It's everything whatever is just appropriate for that situation or that arrangement, and they don't look into that deeper than just the hours and the signatures or whatever. So that's another question. That's supervision. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So if you have comments, please provide them to me. Text me, email me, call me, comment on the YouTube video, whatever works for you. I do intend to update this and share it with all the noobs, myself included, who are just kind of diving into this and want to avoid any kind of horror story of having worked for 2 months at a place and leaving and not getting hours, or having larger swaths of hours disqualified on the back end. Big shout out to Moral Dave, who's a good sport, just chilling. Really? Say hi. No barking outside or at the mailman or anything. Alrighty. Look forward to hearing from you. Godspeed.